say that no one lives forever, but evil never dies. Well, that's what this game says at least. And it's sort of true. Evil never dies, and neither does convoluted copyright. That being the reason that you can no longer buy No One Lives Forever from any place on this earth. The Operative, No One Lives Forever, as it is called in its complete name, the one that no one actually cares about, was developed about 17 years ago by a studio called Monolith. The one that you may better know as the creators of the Fear series, Condemned, Alien vs Predator 2, and more recently the Shadow of Mordor series. But before all that, there came No One Lives Forever, an homage, if you will, of the spy genre. Though it is a very funny game at times, it is not an outright parody. It actually treats the subject with a certain sense of seriousness, but it does interject humor in there. It sort of like Get Smart in that way, where there's comedy, there's ridiculousness, but it's not all played up for laughs. You do wind up caring about some of the characters, about what they're going through, and it's not all just played up as one big joke like Austin Powers would be. Though you are thrust into a world that's kinda ridiculous. There's about a bajillion terrorist organizations with acronyms like HARM, like Misery, and they're kinda run like corporations, like companies where the henchmen will sometimes be traded from one to another, and they'll complain about working conditions and think about retirement, and often discuss with people about their plans for holidays at the next company or next evil organization picnic. And they'll talk about, oh, what would happen to their daughters, to their sons, to their wives if they died horribly in an explosion or because a secret agent just shot them in the head. I gotta say, this game really makes you think twice about shooting all those people. Because just about at every corner you take, you will hear them talk about their lives, their families, their pets, their weird obsession with goats. And at some point, you gotta start to wonder, should I feel sorry about repeatedly killing them? Maybe you should, but the game doesn't judge you. Just like it doesn't judge that guy with the goat. That's all up to you. There was an obsession with ghosts in this game, and I don't know why. Okay, it's funny, but why? And in a strange world, you will take the role of Kate Archer, a Scottish orphan that was previously a cat burglar, a very good one, and now works as a secret agent fighting for Queen and Country and good at Unity, a spy organization that is on the side of righteousness. And she is their first female agent, something that is addressed in the game, with some characters being assholes about it and others really needing to get out more. And the way you react to those people actually depends on you. You can be a bit more polite and ignore their comments, or you can just jab right at them with your, well, what Kate Archer's wit. Yes, for a first-person shooter, this game does on occasion have the odd dialogue option. You may think to yourself, oh, is this like Deus Ex? Is this an RPG, FPS hybrid that's really amazing and superb and non-linear? No. No One Lives Forever is a first-person shooter to its core, but it's not what would be considered a standard one even for that era when things were actually kind of more interesting in certain aspects. There is a dialogue system in the game. It pops up at the beginning, near the end, in the middle a bit, and two other times in cutscenes. And the thing is, it's so superfluous, so pointless, that if you skip a cutscene, it won't skip to the dialogue option, it'll skip over it. You see, No One Lives Forever was made at the time when Monolith did not have a playtesting department, and this game was made more with the idea of let's cram in it everything possible. So they did. And you know how I mentioned that there's enough COD content in the Legacy of Kain series to make several different games? Stuff that you really wish you could see in the game that maybe you kind of miss. No One Lives Forever is the opposite. You kind of get the idea that, oh my god, so many things should have been cut from this game entirely, and it's it's not just me saying that, the developers are saying that. In hindsight, they put too many things in this game, things that were just chucked in there to fill up space and didn't really help the game much. They sort of actually detract from it. The dialogue system being one of them, and your reputation system that is attached to that dialogue system being another. And by reputation system I mean it shows up once, or it's mentioned once, and never does anything. It's there because they didn't take it out, but it's not used for anything. Same goes for a bunch of boss battles involving helicopters and really slow gondolas and vehicles. You get to ride a bike, you get to ride a snowmobile in very, very slow, not interesting at all portions of the game that sort of make you feel like, you know, at least that bit with a snowmobile in Modern Warfare 2 was exciting. This one, kinda too long. And I'm driving in an empty valley for most of the time. Not to mention the gadgets, because hey, this is a spy game, so you've gotta have gadgets. Too many of them, like really too many of them. You can only have a limited amount of gadgets on you at any given time. Well, you can have all of them actually, but you can only get a few of them at the beginning of your mission. You can only carry a few of them with you, and a couple of them are useless. You have a poodle, a robotic poodle that looks kind of terrifying that you can use to distract guard dogs. You may wonder, well, why wouldn't I have this with me? There's one dog in the game. There's one instance where you can distract a dog in the game, and it's right after this poodle is introduced. No dogs are in the game apart from that, because animating quadrupeds, according to the developer, wasn't really working out, so they took them out completely. Well, they left 4 dogs. 3 in the tutorial where you use the poodle and 1 in the actual game. Now wait, there's 2 more in a mission before you get the poodle. Though to be fair, that's because you can redo missions with new gear that you've unlocked later on. The gear also kind of screws up the consistency because you will frequently move from location to location, like around the world, but somehow still have the time to go to Sandra's workshop, which is the Q equivalent of Unity, the gear department, and test stuff out, even though you have a tutorial at the beginning where you run around Unity and do stuff. Yeah, this game could have benefited a lot from playtesting, from having stuff cut out of it. But even so, it's kind of a nice game. And you know why? Because it's so goddamn earnest about what it wants to be. This is a 60s spy video game. It's got laughs, it's got drama, it's got a ton of action, and it makes you think like a spy. Because you have to be very goddamn sneaky in this game. Though not always, granted not always. In the beginning, sneaking will be more of a suggestion that, hey, you should probably going stealthy because Kate Archer isn't Rambo and she can't regenerate health. There are no health pickups in this game, there's just some more armor that you can get. But once your health goes away, you're dead. So try not to get jumped by 20 guards. So even though you have what is basically a rocket launcher briefcase, which is a completely useless item, you can't even take down a helicopter with it, it's recommended generally that you mostly stick to things that kill silently, and when everything fails, go for something with lots of bullets. Though again, this depends on how well you play, and the bullets do factor in this. You're given options in this game. You're given a lot of options. All the gear I mentioned, even the superfluous stuff, is useful sometimes when you're in a pinch, because sneaking through this game isn't really completely easy. You will be required to do exploration, you will be required to analyze how the enemies are moving, and you will be required to sneak, not leave corpses around, especially where cameras can see them, not blow up cameras because then you'll just alert all the guards nearby, and you'll be encouraged to find different routes of getting to one place or another. Not that there are always different routes, but there's sometimes it's not Deus Ex in terms of level design, but it's not Half-Life either. It's somewhere in between. Though in between those two games there's a giant gulf, like a gigantic chasm through which you can fit probably entire genres of games. And no Monolith Forever is somewhere in there. The problem with sneaking in the game though is that after some time it does become mandatory, so you have no choice. You have to sneak around. If you're spotted, if an alarm goes off, if your cover is blown, you're toast. You get a game over. But the game does have a quick save function, so it's not as annoying as in some other games, but it also means that you are basically always one missed shot away from being discovered, which will not always equate to something being fun. Again, the developer mentioned that they should have thought of a way to get the enemies to stop being on alert and go back to doing what they were doing after a while, you know, like something that you would see in the Metal Gear Solid series, but they didn't. Now, that does give the game a bit more realism, even though sometimes it can get annoying. It depends on your take on the idea. Do you like the realism more or the less annoying factor? Now, if they did place more value on the less annoyance factor, then most of the tools you have at your disposal would have been a lot more useful. You have a perfume that stuns people, you have a perfume that puts people to sleep. You know what else puts people to sleep? Like at a much longer range and quickly? A silenced pistol. Yeah, it'll do a good job with a headshot. Bam, absolutely no problem. Sure, you're killing them, but they're bad guys. Also, for some reason, your karate chop also kills them, so you may believe that you're sparing their lives by karate chopping the people that are talking about their families, about taking their wife, their fiance on vacation. No, you outright kill them. Kate can just karate chop people to their doom, and yet for some reason they still try to make her angry. And you know what happens when Kate is angry? Well, she'll shoot you in the face with a phosphorus bullet and blind you. You do have the option of using different types of ammunition that may be more useful depending on your situation. Phosphorus bullets will blind people and burn them. Dum-dum bullets will cause bleeding, you have poison ones, and the thing is that the enemies have them too, so they're gonna keep bumping all those effects on you, and unless you have protection against them like a fire extinguisher or band-aids that make you see goats, you're gonna have a bad time. There's some artifacts scattered through the game like that fire extinguisher or fuzzy slippers, which will give you certain bonuses. They're hidden, so you'll have to spend some time searching for them, which can be hard because again you have no idea what they look like. You kind of have to wonder what kind of spy wears fuzzy slippers. On assignment, I mean, not in general. Probably the same one that spends far too much time in dialogue. The cutscenes of the game, they're another part of the game that should have been streamlined. There's just too much of them. You're told in countless briefings the backstory of every character in the game instead of, you know, finding them out on your own. Kate's isn't. Kate's backstory is actually told through all the documents that you can find. You can find hidden documents in every level. They're kind of vital to getting a better rating than Victim. And that's how you find out about Kate's past. And that's a bit of a better way than, you know, just having the character tell you. Yeah, sure, it may sound a bit inefficient. I mean, it's scarce documents, but it's not dictaphones. It's not stuff that doesn't have reason to be there. You're gathering intelligence. And the enemy is doing the same thing at the same time, it would seem, because you find documents about yourself. And thusly, you are encouraged to explore every nook and cranny of all those levels. And the levels can, again, be quite well done sometimes. They'll have secrets, they'll have places that are cordoned off where you can't get to through normal means. But then you realize a couple of levels later that, oh, now I unlocked the thing that will actually let me go back there and do the other thing. It kind of makes you want to replay it, just so you can get all the stuff and see all the stuff and listen to all the funny dialogues. So again, the fact that every group of two enemies around every corner has a funny conversation to the point where in walkthroughs you will find funny conversation as being a thing. For example, walk down corridor, go left, funny conversation, kill them, go right, go left again, funny conversation, kill them too. The fact that it repeats them so often, not that it repeats the exact words, but it repeats the idea, again, sort of becomes boring after a while, or it would if what they had to say wasn't sometimes actually quite funny. Again, we're getting to the idea that had this game benefited from playtesting, from not just chucking everything in there, like a mission with monkeys in the Gold Edition, the Game of the Year Edition, the Final Edition, this could have been one of the best games ever made. It was still very well received at the time. Oh, it was incredibly well received. People loved it because all the other things compensate. You have the theme, you have the locations, you go from tropical islands, you go to space, you go to the Alps, you go to just about conceivably every place that would make a good setting for a spy movie, a spy game. You're on a train, a very cramped, tight train where you have to avoid the train conductor because you don't have a ticket. And in these locations you will sometimes fight bosses too, which aren't that great, but they're not completely horrible, some of them, a few. But in the end, the game still feels a bit disjointed. It feels a bit like it could have really benefited from more attention, more playtesting, more time, more of everything. Still, it's a nice game. One that will test your ability to sneak around, one that will test your ability to kill everyone you see, and especially your knack for finding games that you can't actually buy from anywhere on the planet. Digitally, I mean, there's probably still a box copy somewhere for sale. And this wasn't the end of the No One Lives Forever series. It had a direct sequel just 2 years later, which was just as well received, though that game did try and be a bit more RPG-ish, having actual skills that you could invest points in. It also had katanas, and then there came Contract Jack, which was a sort of sequel to it, but people didn't really like it. Probably because it did not star Kate Archer and it really wasn't all that great. Also, you can't buy it anywhere either because, well, we may not have harm in this world, but we do have video game publishing lawyers.